Have you ever noticed how one particular place on the map seems to show up again and again in prophecies about the end of the world? We're talking about Persia, the land we now call Iran. It's this ancient cradle of civilization that's just woven into an incredible story of empires, faith, and, well, predictions about how it all ends.
So listen to this. It's a really startling prophecy from Islamic tradition. And the thing is, Isfahan, that's not some mythical faraway land. It is a real major city right in the heart of modern-day Iran. And that right there is what makes this so incredibly fascinating. So that's our big question, right? For more than 1,000 years, why has this specific place been so central to Islamic prophecy? What is it about Persia's history, its culture, its whole journey that puts it at the center of these huge, dramatic predictions? To figure that out, well, we've got to go way back.
Okay, so to really get the prophecies, we first need to rewind the clock. Because long before its encounter with Islam, Persia was already a giant on the world stage. We're talking about a civilization that literally shaped history for over 1,000 years. I mean, just look at the sheer scale of time here. We start with Cyrus the Great, a guy so famous he even gets praise in the Bible. But for our story, the really crucial part is at the end of this timeline, the Sassanid Empire. These guys were a true global superpower, and they're the ones who are about to have a fateful encounter with a brand new faith rising from the desert. And you have to understand, this empire had this incredibly powerful identity, and it was all rooted in its own ancient faith, Zoroastrianism. It was this whole worldview of a cosmic struggle between good and evil. Now, outsiders often called them fire worshippers because of these eternal flames in their temples, which were a symbol of divine purity. This wasn't just a religion, it was the very fabric of who they were as an empire. So it's in this world, with this powerful, ancient empire, with its own deeply rooted religion, that a new chapter in history is about to begin. This is the exact moment when the destinies of Persia and the new faith of Islam are about to collide, and in a very personal and very prophetic way. You know, in the early 7th century, the world was basically a two-player game. You had the Christian Byzantine Empire in the west, the successors to Rome, and you had the Zoroastrian Sassanid Empire in the east. These two giants were locked in this centuries-long fight for who would dominate the known world. So into this incredibly tense situation, a messenger shows up at the court of the Persian king Khosrow II, and he's carrying a letter from a man in Arabia who has declared himself a prophet of God, Muhammad.
Just think about the message. It was so direct, completely uncompromising, and for a king who thought of himself as practically divine, it was just audacious. This wasn't a request for an alliance or a tribute payment. Nope, it was a summons to submit to a completely new faith.
As you can imagine, Khosrow the mighty King of Kings was beyond insulted. How could some man from the desert command him? So in a fit of pure rage, he just ripped the letter to shreds. It was this incredible act of arrogance. And, as we're about to see, it was an act that would seal his empire's fate.
When word of this got back to the prophet, his response wasn't a threat or a call to arms. It was a prophecy, a really stark prediction. Just as Khosrow had torn that letter, God himself would tear his kingdom apart. Okay, so what happened next is one of those huge turning points in world history. The prophecy started to come true, but the story of Persia and Islam turned out to be so much more complex and, frankly, so much more amazing than just a simple story of conquest. And this is such a crucial pivot in the whole narrative. Because at the same time one prophecy was coming true, the prophecy of the fall, with Khosrow's kingdom just crumbling before the Muslim armies, there was a second, totally different prophecy. This one predicted that the Persian people would reach for faith even if it were as far away as the stars. And wow, was that second prophecy fulfilled in a spectacular way. The Persian people didn't just adopt Islam, they helped define it. They basically became its intellectual engine, infusing it with their ancient heritage of philosophy and art. They produced some of the absolute greatest thinkers in Islamic history. The ancient land of Persia was totally reborn as a beacon of Islamic learning.
Now, for centuries, Persia was this absolute heartland of Sunni Islam. But the story doesn't stop there. Another huge transformation was coming, one that would give modern Iran its unique religious and political identity and set it on a path that is still shaping our world today.
So the big change happens in the 16th century. A new dynasty, the Safavids, just sweeps into power. Their leader, this charismatic and really zealous young guy named Shah Ismail, makes a decision that changes everything. He declares Twelver Shiaism the official state religion, and in the process, he fundamentally reshapes the nation's soul.
And at the absolute heart of 12-verse Shi'ism is this profound idea, the gaibat, or the occultation. It's the belief that the final successor to the prophet, the 12th Imam, didn't actually die. Instead, he was taken into hiding by God. They believe he's still alive, waiting for just the right moment to reappear as the Mahdi, a kind of messianic figure who will come back and fill the world with justice. This belief, this patient waiting for a hidden savior, it is absolutely central to understanding modern Iran's worldview. And all of this brings us right back to where we started. This incredibly deep history of empire, of prophecy, of conquest, and this unique theological belief. It all acts as a lens. It's the lens through which so many people, both inside and outside Iran, see its role in the world today, especially when it comes to those end-time predictions.
So if we look at these traditions, you can see how they get mapped onto our world today. First, you have that prophecy about the Antichrist or the Dajjal emerging from Isfahan, which people often connect to the city's ancient Jewish community. Then you have biblical prophecies, like from Ezekiel, that talk about a northern coalition, including Persia, attacking Israel. Some people look at modern alliances and see that prophecy playing out. And finally, other Islamic traditions are read to mean that Persians will be the first to fall in end-time wars, which many interpret as a warning of some huge, catastrophic regional conflict. So really, the crucial point here is how these powerful ancient stories provide a framework for making sense of what's happening right now. For a lot of people, the geopolitics of the Middle East aren't just about oil or borders. They're about watching a divinely scripted drama unfold, a drama that started centuries and centuries ago.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Are we actually watching history bend to the will of these ancient predictions? Or are we just using these powerful ancient stories to try and make sense of a chaotic and really complex modern world? It's a question that sits right at the intersection of faith, history, and the future.